Hi, everyone. This is Adam Shoemaker, rector here at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Charleston. And I am here with parishioner Kate Nevin, who is the founder and board chair of Enough Pie, a nonprofit here in Charleston that St. Stephen's has been supporting as a new ministry this summer during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm here to talk to Kate a little bit about Enough Pie as an organization, what its mission is, and what its impact has been in the city. Welcome, Kate. Good to have you with us. Could you just start by saying a little bit about how you started Enough Pie? How long ago did you do that? And what's the mission of the organization?
Sure. Enough Pie's mission is to use creativity to connect and empower. And we work with the community in the Upper Peninsula. So that's sort of loosely Huger Street North. It's neighborhoods around North Central, Bridgeview, Joseph Floyd Manor, the businesses along Morrison Drive. That's sort of our loose footprint, which is really only around 800 acres of the Charleston Peninsula. But that's a community that we've been building trust and have been very committed to that sort of footprint for the last 8 years. It started out as my husband actually was renovating a building on Upper Meeting Street, 1630 Meeting Street. It had been vacant for about 25 years. And I was spending some time up there, and I really recognized what an incredible community that was. How it really was, it felt very localized. There weren't carriage tours running. There wasn't, sometimes you'd see a line out at Martha Lou's, and Martha Lou is closing down. We're really sad about that. But, you know, so there were restaurants, and there were sort of these reasons that sort of pulled people up to that, you know, what's called the Upper Peninsula. But there really was this incredible energy there in terms of the diversity of both the businesses and the residents. So right next to Martha Lou's, there used to be a pottery studio that was founded by one of Enough Pie's board members called Cone 10. And there was Taco Boy and Cool Blow and Sanders Clyde. So we just sort of started gathering at a community center called PS1 that Dr. Ade Ofunian used to have. And just sort of collectively there were so many interesting ideas about connecting community and this sort of civic engagement of neighbors and businesses working together. So it occurred to me that the best way to facilitate a lot of that was to create a nonprofit. I never went into this thinking Charleston needs another nonprofit, but there really were these just remarkable conversations that were happening when we would get these neighbors in a room, you know, and that's probably been 10 to 11 years ago now, that it was clear that just Enough Pie could almost serve as a facilitator, right? A connector. So trying to sort of really connect resources between groups and help facilitate that creativity that a lot of small businesses and neighborhood associations, you know, quite simply don't have the time or the energy or the resources to really, you know, bring to fruition. So that was sort of what we stepped into. And then around 2012 was really sort of our launch year. And we set ourselves up as a nonprofit and really began to focus on that area of town, and sort of using creativity in all its forms to spark that dialogue about what was happening. You know, there's some big issues that were happening in the neighborhood and changes clearly sort of coming down the pipe, and it was really this it was a way to bring more people to the table that was more comfortable than, say, maybe your typical sort of town hall meeting or neighborhood association meeting. It was really trying to connect some of those dots early on. And so that's where we started. And then as we sort of, got up and running and really sort of pulled in some stakeholders and built our board, it became clear that there were sort of four key approaches we could take. And being that we were only serving this 800 acres, we could go really pretty deep. I mean, I think some people are like, wait, do you do murals or are you writing like neighborhood association manuals? And I'm like, we're doing both. So, it's the artistic collaborations. We really want to see artists out there in the community getting paid, getting stipends, doing good works, connecting with neighbors, finding new ways to elevate all these sort of, artistic talents and makers we have in this community. And then neighborhood partnerships are so important to us. We really like to work with the neighbors and help facilitate ideas that come from the neighborhood association or come from, St. Julian Divine or First African Church. It's really nice when they come to us with an idea and we think, oh, we know the right people to pull in to make this happen. And we also, all of that sort of loosely tied into another sort of tenet of ours, which is creative placemaking, which is really using creativity to make places feel safe and welcoming to everyone. And using methods that are lighter and quicker and cheaper than, say, waiting around for the city to get something through the system so that it happens. It's sort of picking up the low-hanging fruit and how to connect. And that might be, the colorful crosswalks we did, or, we protested for a four-way stop, that's now happening. Charleston moved to continue to push that through. And so, and then the sort of the fourth rung is civic engagement and tying all that sort of together with neighbors and stakeholders and letting them, recognize that they have a power and voice, and help to elevate that and shine a light onto that through our work. So.
Can you say something about the name of the organization? I mean, why you decided to title it Enough Pie?
It has confused some people. We have no pies for sale. We don't. Sometimes we always like to have food at our events. I think we all recognize that breaking bread together can be a wonderful way to sort of reduce barriers and open up connections. But the idea really came from this, from my head when I was just thinking about how this city was changing and what I was seeing in this neighborhood and what I was noticing across the country with some really interesting grassroots neighborhood organizations is this idea that there truly is enough pie for everyone if we stop and take time to think about how we're cutting up those slices and how maybe we need to rethink sort of the way we interact as neighbors, the way we grow as a city, the way we connect as businesses. When you have a framework of abundance and you have a framework of enough pie, it feels more hopeful and positive and like the possibilities are there versus, I think maybe the climate we feel like we're in now, which is one of scarcity and one of fear. And that can feel overwhelming. And, at the end of the day, we're a tiny little grassroots nonprofit. And, some days I want to beat my head against the wall because I don't know that we can compete with a lot of the changes that are just market forces. But some days I am so inspired because those small connections really do count. And you really do see that, when you see neighbors gathering and businesses stepping in new ways to support neighbors and groups like St. Stephen's stepping up in new ways, like that's the enough pie in action. That's the reorganization of resources. And that just feels so good. It feels good to live in that space. And so I think we kind of try to model our name and everything we do. All of our events are free. We want no barriers to entry. At the end of the day, that might not be the best business model for a nonprofit, but it works, and so I think that, really, really finding ways to show that there is enough pie and create a feeling of abundance and needs being met and needs being listened to so that we can properly meet those needs is really sort of built into Enough Pie's DNA.
And can you say a little bit about why you feel like creativity and support of the arts can be such a powerful medium through which to bring about change in a community?
Sure. I mean, I just know in my life, it's had such an impact on me, whether it's poetry or art or dance. That's just part of what lights me up.
Mhm.
And I recognize that in other people. And I remember when we were starting Enough Pie, and there are lots of neighborhoods and sort of which we're focused on that have struggle with some basic needs. And, I remember some people saying, well, would it be better if you were focusing on education or food or, all of this? And I said, well, we kind of can focus on all of that, but we're wrapping it in this beautiful way of shouldn't everybody be inspired? Shouldn't everybody feel connected to this sort of joy that I think a lot of us feel in the beauty of a crafted sculpture or an exceptional mural where everyone that wanted to in the neighborhood was given a paintbrush and a piece to paint. I think that matters, and then I think you kind of bring this energy and trust and goodwill to the table. And then we also are doing these other things sort of with that creativity, and it's talking about issues with flooding. It's talking about mobility issues. It's talking about, food desert issues, which St. Stephen's has been, that was a lot of what you helped us do during COVID, is really get food to some of the most at-risk neighborhoods up here. So, I think I kind of see us as a both and. Like, yes, it's, basic needs are so important, but can't we do that in a way where it's just a lot more fun and joyful and beautiful, So that may sound like a little silly, but I think that's one of the reasons we have been so successful over the last few years in building trust, is showing that, we stick around, we're going to do what we're going to do, and we're also just going to make it really fun. And we hope that you all will come and participate, and neighbors do over and over again. So that's
Great. So yeah, this past summer, as the COVID pandemic got going, we became a site where people could drop donations off downtown of non-perishable items, as well as paper products that got picked up and delivered specifically, as I understand it, to Bridgeview and to Joseph Floyd Manor. And I wonder if you could say a little bit about what Enough Pie has been doing in the community during this time of COVID-19, and perhaps a little bit about those communities and why what St. Stephen's has been doing as a ministry this summer has been impactful.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much. That was very impactful. And I think that goes back to our just having some creativity in our DNA at Enough Pie. We had obviously had different programming planned for the spring. Nobody knew this was going to happen. And we're small and nimble, so we just kind of dropped everything and pivoted to how do we help manage the COVID crisis with our neighbors? How do we help get them what they need? And a lot of that was supplies, and a lot of that was also just information. I think in some under-resourced communities, they're also not, the access to information is not always there either. So we're not flyers up about what COVID was and how to protect yourself. And Catherine, our ED, really recognized that this spring. And so we did a big flyering of Bridgeview and of Joseph Floyd Manor about COVID, about how to protect yourself. We got mask delivery going. We helped manage the food from the food banks coming in. We worked and gathered food up on our own. We worked with Grow Food Carolina on food. And I think a lot of that attention, which was supported by donation and volunteer hours from St. Stephen, was so impactful that I don't want to seem to I don't want to take any credit for this, but I think our biggest fear going into this, seeing what was happening across the country, in some communities that were mostly elderly or lower income, there were huge outbreaks of COVID, and it was devastating, and the lack of resources. So I'm very proud, and I know it was a collaborative team effort, but really early on to get into those communities and talk about COVID and get masks out. I really feel like that played a part in keeping everyone healthy, especially at Joseph Floyd Manor. The majority of the residents there are elderly and disabled, and it's nice to have been able to step in and let people know how to stay healthy, try to keep them in their apartments by bringing resources to them, sharing information as we had it. I think that really meant more in those communities than anywhere else in terms of information and accessibility and resources. So I feel like that was an exponentially successful gift from St. Stephen's, because it had the knock-on effect of not only serving needs, but I also think keeping people healthy, which is great.
Is Enough Pie moves forward as an organization, I wonder, are there projects that will be going on into the fall, or ongoing ideas about how a congregation like ours might be able to continue to be involved and supportive and to partner with Enough Pie?
Absolutely. We continue to work with the Joseph Floyd Manor through the buddy system, and also Bridgeview and the Manor, both with food delivery. Right now, we've got a USDA grant through Grow Food Carolina. So we're actually getting fresh local vegetables to those community. I think the grant has just run out, but we've got now private funding to last through the end of the year. So we're always looking for volunteers for those food delivery days, which are really fun. It's a great way to get in the community. We mask up and we maintain proper distance, but we always are looking for volunteers there. We also, the Vivian Moultrie Park project, there were some mention of that in the Post and Courier, which is exciting, but that was our big spring project, our Spring Awakening project, which was sort of put on hold until fall. So at the end of September, we'll be reactivating that, and there will be opportunities to come and participate there in ways that are safe. Multiple avenues there. We're working on community outreach, where we're working on sort of supporting the artists. We're working on bringing some of the elders over from the manor to watch artists paint and get outside and get some fresh air in a safe way. So, it depends on how people want to get involved. If they really want to get out and kind of engage with the community, then I would say sort of keep up to date on our volunteer programming, which will sort of start to pick up a little bit more safely but slowly this fall. And that will be mostly impacting the Bridgeview communities, the Joseph Floyd communities with the food delivery days, as well as the reactivation of Vivian Moultrie Park and sort of the surrounding community outreach. And I'm happy to send more information to you guys at St. Stephen's, and we'll also be sharing stuff on the Enough Pie in our newsletter. So if anybody's really interested, it'd be great to go to our website and sign up for our newsletter.
Great. And I assume Enough Pie is always happy to accept financial donations. You can donate through the website, I assume.
Bring it on. Yes, absolutely. Those are the best kind. I think we do a lot with a little. There are people that they've come to our office to drop off a check, and they're like, "Where is everybody?" Like, this is everybody, So I think I always like to tell people that if they do feel moved to donate financially, we will turn that nickel into three through community partnerships and through leveraging resources. And we really we operate on a lean budget, but we are able to leverage that budget through really smart partnerships and other in-kind donations. So I'm always proud of that. So we greatly appreciate financial donations, and we will turn that into something really special. for sure.
Well, thank you very much for taking this time, Kate, and please stay tuned for opportunities that we can get out, certainly in the Beacon and our e-newsletter and on social media, other communication platforms we have to let you know specifically volunteer opportunities and contacts and ways that we can continue to stay engaged and supportive of the good work Enough Pie is doing.
Thank you so much.
I'll be back in a couple of weeks with another interview to continue to explore mission and ministry important to St. Stephen's. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.